Okay, so we'll continue from where we left off. In this video, we're going to be learning a little bit of Python inside Houdini. So what I'm going to do is, before going all the stuff that we did with these tools and stuff, I'm going to show you some good practices, I guess I like to use most often, some little bit tips and tricks that I occasionally use. So I'm going to close this one because this one is small. Let's make a bigger one here. So I'm just going to press this plus and I'm going to create a new Python shell. Now, if you just hit enter, you'll see this command prompt that doesn't have anything to do. You can't use things like there. Well, yes, there you can, but not really in a sense of ls or cd. These things don't exist because this is just like pretty much same as inside window. If you Windows, if you run a Python, and or in a command shell, if you run Python in Linux, it's the same thing. By default, at 19.5, you're at 3.8.10. That's good for me. And actually, I'll keep this here to kind of show you the similarities and um, why is it pretty cool to stick the one here in terms of testing. So, um, what's the what's the most common way to? I think you're not going to do geometry context Python here, like in terms of geometry manipulation. I guess say you have a grid. We're not going to move the points of the grid up and down. Um, we're not going to move the what Wex can do at this moment, but we're going to focus on a bit more like tool creation, how to get objects, and so on and so forth. Okay, um, and we'll probably do a little bit of a test workflow just to kind of get you into the mindset of how to use Python inside Houdini for tool creation or for TDs or TD workflow, to just to make your life easier. Okay, um, so if I want to manipulate any object name, so the goal was originally to read some values from somewhere else. And let's say this could be like a shotgun API or anything else, right? Or website. And then use those values to do something in Houdini. So which was resolution change. So if I just break this resolution and if I press the set cam, it's fixing the resolution. If I change the frame range, if I press the set range, oh, from there, if I hit set range, it's fixing the frame range. All right. So I guess to be able to do this, first I need to know how do I change values in Python. So which means that we need to declare objects into Python, right? And the Python shell kind of does that very easily for you. So if you want to reach out, and all these objects are represented in Houdini as an object, Python object. So you can see what it can do, and because you're inside the Python shell here, it's smart enough to tell you that, oh, you can do these things with this, that. What does that mean? Um, so I did wanted to change the value of resolution in case if it's set wrong, right? So inside Houdini, you could just select a node and drag and drop into a Python shell. It'll say, oh, in Python, I'm known as this thing. Now, if you press enter, it's going to say this is a object node of type camera, but you can't really do anything with it at the moment. So let's declare this. Let's say scene cam. So just a string, and then I'm saying this string is equal to this object. If I hit enter, from now on, scene cam will be known as the camera. Now, if I say scene cam, dot, then it's going to say, oh, this is a object that I recognize, and I should be able to do these things with it because that's all I can do with these Python objects, and it knows it. Um, Reading a parameter is called eval param, and I think then you just point to a parameter. So I'm going to be resolution. So what is my resolution? I can just do a mouse over. Come on. Let's call it resx. Maybe it's going to find me resx. Let me press enter. Let's see what's going to happen. Oh, and then it returns me the value. Okay, so which means that I'm getting close. So maybe I can, instead of evaluating it, maybe I can set it. Now, most of the time when you need to do things like this, you'll probably need to Google because this is like so many commands. Um, the one thing that I think I was really struggling when I was trying to learn a little bit of programming was I was convinced that it was very difficult to memorize all this thing, and I had no idea how everybody was doing this. And unless you are all day coding inside Houdini, it's impossible to remember all these commands. So you just have to copy, paste into Google, and then search and then find the commands. But the whole idea is to figure out the logic around it, so you can do the right search, and then sometimes just off the shelf you remember how these things work. Because you can also do parm resx dot eval, which does the same thing. And now this is very confusing, of course, um, but it does the same thing. So there's like a certain Python rules that you kind of get used to it to call these functions, but we'll start simple, and that's where we're going now. We're not going to go diving deeper. So this is a way of reading a parameter. Now, setting a parameter is dot set. No, dot. So first we need to reach to the parameter. I believe it was like this. Again, I sometimes get rusty as well. Now I reach to the parameter. A parameter has certain functions available to us as well. And inside Houdini, or inside Python, you can use this by typing the dir. So like every time you see something like this at the end, it's a function, right? And if you want to reach out what you can do with this, then you can say their object name, for example, scene cam. Gives you all the options. Not much to read here, but guess it's somewhere. So scene, so now I want to change the value, right? So we could do scene cam dot, then I need to reach out to the parameter that I want to set, parm res whatever. If I do dot set, now notice it's not showing me the option what I can do after the first dot, right? Now if I say 5, it's going to change to 5. Okay. Now, if I do this, instead of setting a variable to an object, I can also set a variable to a resolution or an attribute. So I can say cam res x equals to, and then you can just drag and drop the parameter. Okay. Then if I say cam res x dot, it's going to tell me what's available for me to do in this context at the moment. Unlike before, now it's going to be set here. Unlike before, it didn't show me, and then I'll just say 5. It's looking for a tuple. Oh, because it's the, yes, sorry, my bad. Because I dropped not one attribute, but I dropped the whole resolution. So instead of it's like when you have more than, I'm gonna read the proper thing. multiple items in a single variable, like a vector or a two floats. Right? In mathematics, a tuple is a finite sequence or ordered list of numbers, or more generally, mathematical objects, which are called elements of the tuple. So now saying that I'm expecting several numbers here. You just gave me one. So maybe it's looking for something like this. Still erring because we need to squeeze it in as a tuple. I think that should work. And so it did. Right? So that's a tuple. So this is a single float. And this is a tuple. And this is also a tuple, also known as a vector, or three floats. Okay, now we learn how to read and write attributes, right? And once you learn one, pretty much the rest is the same, um, because everything else here will work the same way, right? The translate will work as a parm tuple. Uniform scale is going to work as a parameter, and you're just going to do the same thing as parm, set parameter, or reach out, define, reach out to the parameter, find what you can do with it by putting a dir on it or pressing dot, which Python shell will tell you inside Houdini, not outside the Houdini. You need to install plugins for your IDEs if you need to. And now we learn. Now, second step. I have this information. How can I read this in Python? Right? So I want to reach out to this file, collect this information, and do something with it. Okay? So I'm going to put this always on top. Now we need to learn how to read JSON files. Okay? If I open my code here, it should be here, config, JSON config read. Okay. So again, we'll continue from our test from here. Now, how do I read a JSON? Again, there is so much more complex operation that could be done here, but we're going to go simple basic. I can't just say, so in when you want to open files in Python, it's pretty much open. Okay. Now I'm going to say config is equals to open, and I'm going to point to the file path. Okay. However, this is my code here, but what we did in the past is that because we put that into our system variable, not system variable, sorry, Houdini variable. So we're passing that down as a, where is it? Config file already. So this attribute exists as a variable in this live session. So how do I reach that out? Reading variables requires an attribute. It's written here, os.environ, and I believe this is same in Windows as well. So if I say os.environ, square bracket, the attribute that I pass down, enter, it will say that the OS is not defined. So we have to tell Houdini or Python session to take advantage of system variables, which is a library called OS. So I need to first say OS. Now I import this into my session, so then I can use, and this time when I type OS, it's going to tell me there are things that I can do. And I'm going to do the same thing. Environ function. And now it's returning me the value. So there are other things like that too. I believe there's username. No, maybe user. No, it's not user too. Maybe if we do a dir, no, we can print. Can I do that? No. Maybe s dot. Okay, so it's gonna give me all this stuff, right? So my job is called tries called. My heap name is this. All this stuff that I can access using on run, and then I can pass this down as a um, to anything basically, to create versions for my files and maybe creating little logs, so on and so forth. But we are right now interested in config because that's where we want to reach to be able to read this file. So we didn't declare yet, so let's declare this file as a variable called config. Okay, so we did import OS and we did config. So we have two things now. Now I want to open config. Oh, actually, I want to do it a bit better. Config, or we can do it here from as well. So this is my JSON file, but I need to declare it as a JSON object so I can do things with it. So let's call it maybe config JSON equals open, and then point it to my attribute, the variable, which is config. All right, and now I opened it. Now I create like a little, actually, I open the file, so I have to do something with it, right? I do have a variable called shut as well. Oops, so I broke my config, sorry. Let's go back like this, and let's call this shut as well. Okay, so we have a config file, we have a config JSON object, and then we have a shut variable. Okay, we're getting close. Now, I need to say, as I wrote on the right side, data equals JSON dot load. Now, I'm going to tell my Python that this is a JSON file, and that's called config JSON, right? Now, it's going to fail. It's going to say I can't find a function called JSON as well because we didn't import it yet. So we need to tell Python to import the JSON library. So I can do the same thing now. Oh, config JSON is not defined. Did I not define it? Config equals, should have, maybe I changed it. Oh, because I overwrote it before. Oh, no. Doing a little error. So it's just config. Okay, let's double check again. So config equals my JSON file. Oh, okay, it's just a text. So let's do the open. Oh, I'm just keep overwriting. So I'll call this JSON equals, let's call it JSON file. Actually, let's not make it complex. Let's just keep the same workflow here. So I didn't want to hard code my config because it's coming from my environment, but it's not just a string. So I'm gonna say, I guess I'm gonna have to change it to, actually, let's just load this one here to see exactly how it's done. So we don't do something else. So I did import OS. So I can just overwrite all of this again. Then I did import JSON. Nope. Right click, paste. Okay. Now and then I said config equals to open this file using the config environment variable, right? Okay. And then I said my shut variable is equals to shut os environment shut. And now, because I loaded my JSON library as well, I can say JSON.load config. Okay, so now if I say data, I'm gonna receive a bunch of stuff. Now it's very hard to read, but if I say maybe for I in data print I, oh yes, for I in data, print I. Now it's going to give me the first keys, which are resolution, color space, shots. Let me see if I can remember if I want to dive inside shots, how it was. I think I'm not. I see. That's what I meant. Like I always keep forgetting this, but I think we can do the same thing like this. In data, I want to reach to shots. I think it was like this, but it needs to be a string. Work. Yes. So now I went one layer inside, and I pulled my shot names out. Now I need to be able to do something with these, right? So we're gonna manipulate a few things. So what do we have inside these shots? Just like objects, okay? Everything else around here, all these buttons, could be called with a Python as well. Now you can't drag and drop. So here comes the complications. How do I know what this object means? Where? And if there's any other way, better way, please, guys, let me know. But at this point, I'm just Googling. Um, so I'm gonna find that out as well. Basically, I just type who set frame range, for example, and set frame or who play bar module, and that's what it is, play bar module. Okay, now I know what it is, so I can start playing with it, which is, as you guys can see, it's called who.playbar. So then I go like I did for the objects, who.playbar, right? And then if I do that, it's not callable. Dot. It can do certain things. And is playing, is audio shown, frame range. Maybe I can return the frame range. It returns the frame range. Maybe I can set the frame range then. And I can set the real time. All these buttons here, they're all plugged into this. So what did we do? Now, as you guys can see, I have the data. Now, I can reach out the resolution, which is same for my all show. If it wasn't the same per shot, then it would be a different story, like frame rate, which will reach out. So then I want to learn about the resolution. Maybe I'm going to declare it. So there's something called camera resolution equals data backtick resolution. And if I say camres, gives me a resolution. Now we already learned how to set up a tuple. I have to set up parameters. So we need to say something like we need to find the camera and do something with it, right? So here's my camera tool as well. I split them into different tools. So, but they're obviously better and easier ways, but I'm gonna do the camera in the second half of this tutorial. Now let's concentrate on the frame range. Now per shot, obviously the frame ranges will be different. And please take this episode as a broad understanding of how to use Python in most case scenarios. And I'm gonna do the third one, manipulating with a little bit of a loop, going through objects. Maybe we can do something with the settings or something. Okay, so we're gonna set now the frame range. So how do I get the frame range for the shot? As you guys can see, I wrote it already here. So if I say data, and which we did actually here, there's no clear in Python shell. So I'm gonna do it for I again. So what does it mean? For I in shots, so for I in data, basically what I'm doing is for information in data, because there's more than one, because data in shots. So like in the shots key, I have sub members. So I'm gonna loop through these, and it's gonna go for all, and it's gonna do it one by one. So I'm saying for every entry inside data shots, print me the value frame range. Okay, now you can't just call it like this. I don't think this will work. Let's try it anyway. Okay, it didn't. So we need to return the value. So we can say it's still a data because I think we can't say so. At the moment, the I inside the loop becomes the specific entry, right? So then I can say, and we're still in the JSON concept. So I can say frame range. And I need to print this because I want to see if I'm reading the correct values. And now that shouldn't work. A string, that must be integers. Oh, isn't it like this? Oh, I need to go data. Now that should work. Oh, okay. Data shots. Shot frame range. Interesting. Uh, for I in data. Okay, hang on. Print I. Okay, this gives me the shot name. And so this is the shot name. And is it like this? I believe so. Okay, let's try. Frame range is not defined. Oh, shoot. Here comes the when I am unable to do my own code. Okay, so let's try again. For I and okay, so is it because it's not an object anymore? Okay, what if I do this? Print um, data I. Okay, that won't work. Okay, what if I do this? Uh, well, that should have worked, but okay, let me reach it out like I did in the original one then. Frame range equals data. Okay, let's print it up like this because we still have data, yes. And then let's go. I want to go through shots. And then shot, which is already declared in our session. And then I want to reach out to frame range. Frame range. So that's giving me 1001 to 1075. I don't understand why. Okay, I'm not going to waste time. I'm probably doing a syntax error somewhere, but because I just want to print it per shot just like I did this. If I do print I, no, like this. Okay, I'm sure we can find the way. Print I, yes. So this should work. I don't get it why it's not working. That should really work. I didn't miss the comma. Did I miss a comma here somewhere? No, I don't think so. Frame range. Shot, frame range. That's shot, that's frame range. Okay, let's not waste time. I'm gonna for sure find it and then post it here in the beginning of next video. All right, so what did we do? Last thing was we get the frame range. So how do I set the frame range now? Um, Basically, we learned that the current frame range, and if let's change it to something else, and we learned how to set tuples. So it's who dot play bar dot set frame range, and we could probably I did these separately, but this should also work because returning a tuple. I believe if it's expecting two vectors, so let's do actually let's declare that to frame range typo. Okay, now let's do who dot play bar frame range play bar object is not, I didn't do set dot set frame range who dot set frame range, sorry, play bar dot set frame range frame range. So that's a tuple. Okay, so it's looking at for the third one. So the way I did it was because our frame, okay, since we're doing a little bit basic Python. So remember we declared frame range as a tuple. So you can do this. This one will declare return the first one. This one will return the second one, or this one should return the last one. Okay, so then we can do first one, comma, second one, since there's only two values here. Now our frame range is automatically set. Now, how do we turn that into a tool? I'm going to copy paste this. You just need to create your own tab. You can do by new shelf, give it a name. Then you create a new tool, write your code, make sure it's Python, and you apply save. Now there's one little tiny website that I really enjoy. Is I think let me find it first. Flaticon or Flat Icon, I guess. This is where I get my icons from. Super handy, many free icons. It just makes it more fun to your own shelf. So they're not just boring links. Now and then I basically did this set range as a, I put the same thing. I added my script here, and now every time I am in one of these shots, I can just say set range, and I'll make sure that it's the correct frame range. Now let's do something to do with the camera. It is the similar thing, but here's a little extra work for us. So everything else is same, pretty much. We're reading the data and we're declaring some information like res is coming from resolution, which is just reading this guy and says okay. And then frame range is same. Frame range is reading the shot specific frame range. And then brief is reading the brief as well, testing. And now, but it's doing something different. It's doing something on a selected object. So I'm saying, and selected object in Houdini is represented by selected nodes, because it could be more than one or two. And so let's do something with this. So what do I do? How do I select an object and do something over a select object? So I can say selected equals, and it's called who dot selected nodes. Okay. If I do this, while these objects are selected, it's going to give me this list. So I can say for I in, okay, let's do it a little bit more interesting. Like this USS Missouri has a lot of objects and it has a lot of shaders. Let's do all of this in here. Shaders equals, this is one of the most common used uh, things in Houdini. Looping over many objects to do something using um, Python. Shaders, okay, doesn't look like anything. For I in shaders, print I dot name, I guess. No, maybe names. Okay, let's go. Oh, I keep forgetting the Python thing. Okay, so all the names, all the objects are here. So these are all the shaders I have here. Maybe I can do something like this. And if I do I dot, then it's going to tell me what I can do with these objects. So I can change their names or, right now I'm just calling information. So I can say maybe just the names or path. I can get the path, I believe. So if I say path, it's going to give me their paths. So I can do something with it. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting some attributes on selected camera. So only the camera has res X and res Y attributes. So I'm saying camRes equals who selected nodes parm tuple res. So I know that selected node is supposed to be a camera, which is supposed to have a res attribute. So what happens if I do it on something else that doesn't have a res attribute? And it's going to error, right? Because it doesn't have that attribute. So what happens? How do I give this information as a feedback instead of some stupid node? Let's say it's, failed. Yes, I can't do it because I can't find this attribute. We can also try something like this as I did here. We can say, try doing this. If it doesn't work, print. I don't understand. I can't find the attribute res. Okay, so let's try it again. Now this needs to go. And if this works, then do this. If it doesn't work, then give me an error message. Okay, let's try it again. Oh, did that? Oh, wait a second. No, it didn't work. Cameras. Try. Why is this not printing the error message? Should have worked. Okay, let's double check. Invalid syntax else. What else? Oh, except, not else. Apply. Okay, so now it's saying I can't find. Oh, thank you, English. I can't find the camera. Okay, so this one needs to go here as well. So basically, I'm saying run the command. I'm going to explain this a little bit after. Basically, I'm saying run the command. When I run this command, try to reach out this attribute called res. If the attribute, so it means that if this step doesn't fail, go to the next step, rename it to a render camera. If this step doesn't fail, set the resolution that is coming from resolution JSON file. And then if all fails, if the first one fails, whatever, second, third, jump to the except, and then say print I can't find the attribute, yes. Or in Houdini, if you want to launch a little bit UI, you can say display message and then say I'm unable to do what I'm supposed to do. So let's try it again. And then it's going to launch a little window, says you need to select a camera object because that's what we want to return if the first step fails. So if I select the object, change its name, run it again. Now I changed the render camera, basically sit on here, set name, and the the name is changed. And that's basically a very simple way, like a little introduction to Python for Houdini. It's all about manipulating, looping against files, and figuring out how to pretty much browse through the scene. Like I said, one of the most used aspects is like looping through objects. So for example, in this boat, I create a lot of Redshift nodes, and I all name them with RS at the end. So if I need to do a little cleanup, of course I can all select like this and delete them. That anything that is not ending with RS, but in Python, for example, we have ends with. And if I wanted to just loop through these Redshift materials, I could search by their type, or I could, for example, go through by the way they ends with, and then I could do something like this. If I just want to manipulate Redshift nodes, so I could do like, right, I can select all of these and say, actually, I already have this, right? Print I, and then I can say for I in shader, if I dot ends with, I think it's like this, rs, oops, oh, forgot, rs, print I, for I in shader, if, I think I dot name, okay, let's do like this because an object is gonna fail. For I in shaders, shaders equals I dot name, okay, then if shader in shaders, I think this should work. No, no, I was supposed to write up there. Kill it. Okay, let's try again. For I in shaders, if shader in shaders, if shader, if name in, if let's say shader name in shaders, no, this is not how this works. How do I do it? Because I need to go inside. Okay, for I in shaders, print I. Okay, for I in shaders, if I dot name, oops, ends with rs, print I dot name. Should work, I guess. Okay, so now it basically, I said for everything in all the shaders, find something that ends with rs, which is the ones that I named. And if you find it, print the names of those or print the object names and then do something with it. Maybe move them to somewhere else and do something else. So these are the most common cases of um, Python in Houdini. Automation can be done. We can plug in the shader names and using the names, and we can dive inside objects, look at the name of the objects, and just rename the objects, give them a color, move them around, organize them, delete them, create them, duplicate them, whatever we can do in Houdini, or maybe send them to farm for processing, and maybe plug them somewhere, maybe render them separately, etc., etc. Okay, so now this concludes the basics of Python for our course, and in the next one we'll continue and continue building our scene, and we'll actually, I believe, in the next one, where is my chapters? In the next one, we're gonna start the little bit of animation and flip booking, and then putting inside our cut. Okay, and thank you for watching. See you in the next video.